Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live video from the Like Home Tenants Group. I am Art Ville, and every week or so, I try to do one of these videos to explain a technique or explain a process that you can use to help you further yourself and get into a position where you can buy a home or you can get into a rent-to-own home. Now, I know a lot of you here are interested in rent-to-own homes. And while I am an advocate for rent to own homes, I've been a landlord investor for over 20 years, and I've done a lot of rent to own properties. You do have to be very careful when you go to get into a rent to own because there are a lot of scams, and a lot of places use rent to own as a way to make tenants pay for repairs, and they really have no interest in helping you buy a home. And so I try to put out these videos and help you navigate through some of the scams, navigate through some of the things that you should look out for, and protect yourself so that you don't waste money or waste your time or get frustrated by going through this process of trying to own a home. Having said that, today I'm going to do a video about using a realtor to find a rent-to-own home. So I put out maybe a couple of days ago a question about what people would be interested in as far as a video, and this was one of the topics that came up, and so I thought I'd discuss it. So the first thing is I want to talk about the benefits to using a realtor to help you find a rent-to-own home. One of the best benefits is that a realtor knows the rental market and knows the market that you're in much better than you do. They're in it. This is what they do every day, and so there's a much better chance that they're going to have something that they're going to know what's available, what makes sense, and what does not make sense in your area. So it's always good to consider working with a realtor because they know the market. Another benefit is that realtors add a layer of protection to help you avoid scams. Like I said before, there are a ton of scams out there with rent to own and places that try to take advantage of you. And a realtor, because they've been in the business, they kind of can get a sense, and they they can smell kind of when a scam is around, and they can kind of warn you, and they can give you another layer of protection, especially if you're not used to rent to own and what is involved and how to look out for scams. So they're always a good layer of protection. A third way is that a good realtor knows many landlords. If they're in the area, if they're marketing, if they're out there trying to build their real estate business, then they're going to know a lot of the landlords in the area, especially some of the bigger landlords. They're going to know which landlords might be open to a rent to own, which landlords are completely not open to a rent to own. And because they go out and make offers for people on houses, if they have to go out and ask a landlord what they consider doing a rent to own for you, they're going to be fine with doing that because they're used to going out and talking to these sellers and these landlords. So those are some of the best benefits on why you should consider using a realtor when you're looking for a rent to own. Now, having said that, I have to also address some of the negatives that come out with using a realtor. And one of the biggest negatives is you're going to find is not all realtors are equal. And what I mean by that is when I started my real estate business, I thought you just hire a lawyer and the lawyer would help you, buy a house. And I quickly realized that a lot of lawyers are not versed in very specific aspects of the business. And that's the same thing with realtors. You could find a realtor and think, well, my cousin's a realtor or this person's a realtor, so I'll just use them. But if they don't know about rent to own or they don't really work in their market like they should, then you're going to be wasting your time talking to them because they're not going to be able to help you. And you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste their time. So you're going to have to do a little bit of legwork to find the right realtor. And I'm going to address that later in a few minutes. Another negative is, again, you need to educate yourself before you go out and talk to these realtors. I'm going to give you the questions that you should ask the realtor to make this easy for you to help you find the right realtor. So just pay attention. And the final negative with the realtor is that you will pay more. And the reason being is because you're going to have to pay that realtor for their time. Now, you're probably not going to pay that realtor directly. The realtor is probably going to work out a deal with the landlord, and the money they receive from you, the money that the landlord receives from you is a down payment or what's called an option deposit. They're going to use that money to pay off the realtor. But because the landlord typically has a minimum amount or they have an amount that they want as a landlord, they're going to tell you, hey, you know, they wouldn't tell you, but they'll say something like, well, normally we would only charge 4,000 or 3,000 to get into this house as a rent to own. But because we've got to pay the realtor, you got to pay an extra $1,500. So you got to pay 5,500 instead of the 4,000. So that can be, just know that you're going to have to pay for that service. And as long as you're okay with that, then the realtor is a good choice. Now, there are two techniques that you can use to find a realtor and use them to help you find a rent to own property. The first technique, it can work, but it's much more of a kind of shot in the dark, lucky kind of technique. You're lucky if this will generate a, a rent to own deal for you that you can move into. But it works, and if you want to try it this way, by all means, try it. That first technique is to call some realtors. You're probably going to have to call more than one. Ask them if they have rent to own properties, and do they deal with rent to own properties, and then kind of hope that one of them says yes, hope one of them says, yeah, I have a rent to own property that makes sense for you or something like that, and kind of go from there. That is probably the needle in a haystack kind of answer that you're going to get. If a realtor has something, they just happen to have a landlord that does rent to own, they'll give it to you, but that's a much harder way to find a property. But it can work, and especially if you don't want to put the effort into the second technique I'm going to give you, then that's something that might work for you. Now, technique number two to use a realtor is to call and ask realtors a series of questions before you actually give them any information. And realtors, especially if they're good, they can be a little bit pushy and they might not always want to give you answers. But if they don't, that's fine. There are more than enough realtors out there, and you can go find another realtor that is willing to work with you. So don't be frustrated or upset if a realtor is not willing to answer your questions, or if they're rude or something like that. You are paying money for the service, so you deserve to be treated with respect, and they should treat you as such, even if you are renting to own, which is not a negative. You're a person that wants to rent to own a house. They should respect that. So the second technique, I want you to ask a series of questions. The first question I want you to ask when you call this realtor is ask the realtor if they work with renters, if they help renters find places. Some realtors will tell you no, they don't. Some realtors will tell you yes, we work with renters all the time. Some will tell you they only work with sellers, or they only work with buyers. And you only want to talk to the realtors that work with renters, and you don't want to waste their time, and you don't want to waste your time. So if they say, no, I don't work with renters, I only work with buyers and sellers, then you say, okay, thank you for your time. But before you get off the phone, ask them, well, do you know of any realtors that do work with renters? And they can probably steer you to some people that might be beneficial for you. They'll either steer you to somebody that works with renters, or they'll steer you to a new landlord, a new realtor that maybe doesn't have any clients, and maybe to build up some business, they want to talk to you just to start some business. Either way, it's fine. Once you get someone that says they deal with renters, the next question you want to ask is if they understand rent to own housing. If they understand rent to own, if they've ever worked with someone to help them get into a rent to own, if they've ever done anything where a landlord was trying to rent or sell a place with rent to own, and you want to ask them to see if they have any background. Now, if they don't have any background, it does not mean you cannot work with them, but just know that they're not going to be able to protect you as much because they don't know, and you should know if they know or not. So you want to kind of protect yourself and know if they know about rent to own or not. The third thing you want to do is if they say, yes, they know about rent to own, if they say they work with renters, you want to tell them the area that you're interested in. You want to tell them the size house, meaning how many bedrooms and bathrooms you'd like in your house. And you want to tell them that you want a rent to own. Say, I'm looking for a rent to own property with these kind of criteria. I want it to be on the south side of the town, or whatever areas you're looking for. I need it to have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And you want to give them those details. You also want to tell them that you do have money to put down, assuming that you have money to put down, because that's usually a requirement for rent to own. So you want to make sure that you tell them you have money to put down, and you want to tell them a general price range of the rent that you can afford. Rent to owns typically cost more than a regular rental, so be prepared to pay a little bit more than a typical rental in that same area. But as long as you can give them those criteria, then what you want to do is tell them to call you when they find something. And they'll typically say they may not have anything. That's very common, that they don't have any rent to owns that fit your criteria right now. But tell them that when they get something, to keep you in mind, and that you'll be looking for the next couple of months until you find something, and they'll reach out to you. Now, you can do this with one realtor, and if you feel comfortable with that one realtor and they gave you answers that you're comfortable with and you feel that they're going to go out and actually look for you, then you can, sit back and wait for them to find you a place. Or you can reach out to more than one realtor, ask them the same set of questions. Again, if they work with renters, if they understand rent to own, and then give them your criteria and tell them how much don't tell them how much you have to put down. Tell them you do have money to put down. Sometimes they'll want a ballpark. Say I have a couple of thousand or something like that if you have that kind of money, and then give them a price range on your monthly rent, and then let them go find you something. Now you can do that with a couple of realtors, and the first one that comes back to you with something that makes sense for you, choose that property, or talk to that realtor, go see that property. Or you can just deal with one realtor. It's unethical, or it's not a good practice to get two or three realtors on the hook and then have them compete against each other. I don't necessarily like that, but at the same time, you're free to talk to more than one realtor. Don't feel that you're obligated to stay with one realtor. You need to find the best deal for you. So using this technique, you can definitely find a rent to own if they are available in your area. And it just makes sense. So try this. If you have any comments, if you tried it and have some issues, or you tried it and the realtor gave you a really nasty attitude or something like that, leave a comment in this video and I'll be sure to respond and give you my advice on how you should handle that. Another option is to look at the likehome.co website. Likehome.co is our parent company, and likehome.co is a self-serving or self-directed rent-to-own program, meaning that you can rent to own or create the money and the credit that you need to buy a home, no matter where you stay, and you can kind of learn from there. So that's always an option. And we're in pre-launch right now. We haven't launched live yet, but you can sign up on the website likehome.co, and you can join to be notified when we launch and get into the pre-launch the mailing list. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope this is something that you can use, and it can help you better yourself and get into a better position if you really want to pursue rent to own, because I have had a lot of people on the group that have said they want to get into a rent to own now. They don't want to wait. So this is a way to definitely start that ball rolling, and it's something you can do today and take action. So I hope this has helped you. Hope, if you have other questions or other concerns, please put them in the comments below, and I'll possibly do a video on them. Till next time, I look forward to talking with you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.